Good evening and welcome to the 8th round of our 1987 PPG IndyCar World Series. Coming to you tonight for the Budweiser Grand Prix of Cleveland at the Burke Lakefront Airport, located in the northeast parts of downtown Cleveland. A bumpy roller coaster of a ride, especially for the drivers. Not a lot of up and down in terms of the road itself, but a lot of bumps on these taxiways um, and takeoff ways at this airport. Historied as a track favored by fans, but not so much from the driver's point of view. The track itself here at Burke Lakefront Airport, it's a 2.479 mile temporary circuit at this airport, closed for the weekend. I think for the events when it was held, they closed the airport for 4 days or so for these races. Now drivers will be doing 80 laps, equaling 198.32 miles. Looking at the points and the scheme as such, as usual, it is 20 points for a win, 16 points for second, 14 for third, 12 for fourth, 10 for fifth and 8 for sixth, and then it drops by 1 point from sixth for a 7th place finish to 1 point for a 12th place finish. 1 point is also scored for pole position and 1 point is scored for the most laps led. All finishers and non-finishers are eligible to score points, and all rounds count towards the championship total. After last time out at Wisconsin State Fair Park, Grant Ridall is taking over the lead in the championship on 90 points. John Tim, the leader coming into that race, is now second on 86 points. Then there's a bit of a gap down to Anders Nilsson, unfortunately a retiree last time out, third on 69 points. Niklas Kirsten, unfortunately not racing tonight, is fourth on 62 points, and then Brian Yannick brings out the top 5 on 47 points. So the championship developing more into a 2-horse race this far into the championship, with 8 rounds, this being the 8th round. We are technically entering the second half of the championship year in the kart PPG IndyCar World Series Championship. Also, good things to keep in mind is that our drivers have an unlimited amount of tires to use for the warm-up, qualifying and race, and each of the drivers are limited to 3 full tanks, equaling 122.36 US gallons, or just a whisker over 463 liters for the race. And the drivers must start with a full tank. It looks like the briefing is underway for our drivers. So while that is going on, a few tidbits about the track we are racing tonight here at Burke Lakefront Airport. The event was held as an IndyCar or kart race from 1982 up until the end of 2007. The event as such ended with the reunification of the open wheel US series, that being back in 06-07. One side was IndyCar and the other was kart. They merged back together, having split in the 90s. And yeah, Unfortunately, Cleveland was one of the events that ran out of favor at that point in time. In addition to the IndyCar series, this airport circuit also held Indy Lights races and alternately Atlantic Championship races from 1987 up until the end of 2007. Also twice, being in 1984 and 1990, a round of the International Race of Champions was held here as support races for the IndyCar / kart events. The layout that we are looking at here was used from 84 to 89, being the 2.479 mile layout. In 1990, what is this track's turn 1 and 2 was scrapped, turning turn 3, the hairpin we can see on the layout, into the new turn 1. Scrambles and kerfuffle and car parts flying became the norm and loved by fans after that point. Another aspect that we will see, hopefully very soon when we get to have a run on board with one of our drivers, the track is very, very wide, being runways, but that also makes it difficult to gauge turning points. The drivers are likely to use cones or shut-off points, being what I also call as distance markers, at the side of the tracks to sort of gauge when do I turn in and when do I brake. But there are a few places where there are no such markers. The final turns going into the chicane at the end of the lap is one of those places, as well as the hairpin at turn 1. Lack those kind of things, and it might cause some issues for some drivers running too deep into these turns and losing time and or places in the process. Another hazardous place that we will see is at the exit of turn 10. It's a very bumpy entry that is onto the back straight before the last chicane, that right-hander we are talking about. You want to get on the power very early because it's a good passing opportunity at the end of that straight. But that being said, the wall on the outside can get uncomfortably close if you get too much power on or too early on the power. This spot is very similar to what the old Belle Isle layout was going back about 3-4 years at that track's turn 13, where you also had a mid-speed right-hander wanting to get on the power very early, but a concrete wall welcoming you very, very nicely on the outside if you got it wrong. Very interesting to watch, especially when both IndyCar and the United Sports Car Championship has gone there in the past. At least one or two offs there at those events. Additionally, good to know is that there will be local yellows only for this race. The main reason being that we want to try and avoid issues with timing and scoring in this race, having seen some rather lackluster times in recent events. And here we can see another hazard, this pit exit. We can see turn 1-2 to our left. Here comes a couple of drivers. We can see they will be going. They actually kept it quite tight. We can see the car behind, our Sierra Racing machine, I believe that was. No, it wasn't. That was number 12. We can see they want to get out to the wall as far as they can, but we can see the pit exit merges right onto that line. So you need to be very aware, both coming off the pit lane and coming off turn 2, if someone is coming out of the pit lane or coming up the track if you're exiting the pit lane, because those gaps can close very quickly and the wall on the outside is very firm and hard indeed. And Also to note, this is a completely new build, thanks to Alberto Ibanez, who has put this track together. You can see there are some berms on the outside, on the edges of the track here, just to discourage cutting. That was turn 1-2, here comes turn 3. Hairpin leading on to a very long run. You want to get the power down on this bumpy exit as well as you can to get as much speed as you can down this long chute. Through what I'd assume be turn 4, then we have turn 5 and 6. Very quick entry into a right-hander. Quickly get the car over to a left-hander. Don't run too wide on the exit. Get the power down. Then we have what would be turn 7 and 8 then, thinking of the track layout. Left into a right, then a bit of a shorter chute. Try to get the power down, get as much speed as you can into a almost no braking right-hander. At turn 9, then turn 10. Get the turn in right on the bumpy entry and then get the power down and don't hit the wall on the outside. And now we're heading down this long run, pit entry on the left. Avoid the retaining barrier and turn 11 and 12 onto the start-finish straight. And that's one lap of this Burke Lakefront Airport racetrack. Looking for one particular driver. Here we have him. Dave Miller is in a one-off start here in the number 48. That is an Acerclinth racing machine, a March 85 Cosworth powered machine. Hence, it's probably not going to be a very quick car, but it should handle the bumps hopefully a little bit better, being a little bit less stiff, I'd say, in the chassis, meaning it will hopefully ride the bumps better for him. I talked to him before the race here, and he feels rather secure and safe in this Acerclinth racing machine. That is the car that Heimrath Junior raced in a few of the races back in this year's championship. We can also see behind him there in 7th is Anders Nilsson. He has given up his full-time ride with Dick Simon and has been signed for a one-off race in the number 8 Penske Motorsport entry. That is a Penske PC16 chassis with the Ilmo power plant in the back, which should be a real weapon down the straight, as we can see there, pulling past the Brabham Honda of Gilardini. But likewise, a bit of a handful in some of these turns. So you can see there how tight and sharp that turn-in is for turn 1-2. And let's see, that is one of the other, that's Wilkes, I think, in the pits. It is. Let's see if he comes out of the pits as well. I hope he does. Just to show you how tight that pit exit is. Must have had some damage. That's a very long pit stop. We can also see on the timing stand at the moment, Tiago Canola currently fastest, our winner last time out. He is now in the car that Anders Nilsson vacated, the number 23 Dick Simon Racing entry. A Lola T87 with a Cosworth power plant. In the real life series, I believe in the hands of Jeff Wood. Back in day for this round. To note as well, unfortunately, the car that won the real-life race in the hands of Emerson Fittipaldi won't be here tonight, one of the Patrick Racing machines. And the car that also finished second was that of Bobby Rahal in the True Sports entry. Kirsten unfortunately not racing tonight. But the car that took pole position, that being Roberto Guerrero's Wins Granatelli Racing entry, that finished 5th in the race itself, is here tonight. He is currently sitting 5th in the race standings, or warm-up standings here, the number 4. Jules Bouchard in the number 3, Danny Sullivan Penske. Let's see where we have Jules. Yeah, we have him in the pits at the moment, but that number 3 machine, the Miller American sponsored car, finished 4th in the real life race, and unfortunately the car that finished 3rd is not on the grid either tonight. That was the Dig Shearson Racing entry, the car that Al Unser Jr. raced in the real life championship. Currently Ray Riddle actually now fastest in the Rainer Racing entry. Currently leading the championship and the warm-up times here. Canola then down to 2nd. Brian Yannick back racing. He couldn't partake last time out due to a power outage. As close as we can get in the sim racing world to an electrical failure in the car. Currently 3rd, but on a faster lap. So presumably is going to be quite close to the top 2. Anders Nilsson currently 4th in that PC16. That is a very handy drive. That chassis not very kind to the drivers, generally speaking. John Tim 2nd in the championship, currently 5th in the warm-up standings. Juha Bors 6th with Saber in 7th, Ray Riddle 8th, David Wattman in 9th, and Richard Willis currently 10th, still in the pits. So while we wait with the 1 minute and 45 to go, I shall give you an idea of the qualifying standings. So on pole for tonight's race will be Thiago Canola, did a lap 1.06.197, only 200ths off his possible best time, which is extremely impressive. Grant Riddle will be 2nd on the grid, with Richard Wilkes and the Gallus Racing Brabham Honda in 3rd. He has improved a lot. Was right at the front last time out at Wisconsin State Fair Park, and right up here as well, here at Burke Lakefront Airport. Brian Yannick will line up 4th, with John Tim for Craker Racing in 5th. Anders Nilsson at the Penske will be 6th, with Bruno Pagiola in the Arciero Racing car in 7th. Juha Bors qualifies 8th, with Ray Riddle in 9th, and David Wattman rounds out the top 10. Alberto Equino, Berto Jr., qualifies 11th, with David Saber in 12th. Jason White will start from 13th, with Filippo Marazzi from 14th. Jules Bouchard in his March 86C with the Ilmor power plant will start from 15th, with Dame Miller starting 16th. Brun Chacon will start from 17th, with Simon Wattman 18th, and Simone Gilardini will start from 19th and last in tonight's race. Good evening, Brett. Nice to see you with us again. And BL as well. Nice to see you. And yes, Windy, hello there. Nice to have you with us as well. And that is an aspect very much to keep in mind as well for, I'm sure, more than Dave. Dave Miller has had about 4.5 hours of sleep this weekend because the Le Mans 24-hour race has been on over the past 2 days. It finished about about 8 o'clock now, so it would have finished about 4 hours, 5 hours ago, 4 or 5 hours ago. So some drivers might be just a little bit tired ahead of this race. But that being said, surely a good race will be on here tonight. And look at this beautiful grid as they begin to form up ahead of the parade lap, ahead of the 80 lap race here tonight. And I would say my bet would be on Richard Wilkes tonight. He has had a lot of improvement in that car, a March 87C with the Brabham Honda engine should do very well at this race. Good enough on the power down and very good on fuel usage. As we can see, the full field pulling away and everyone just getting everything set up and ready for the race start. You can see that just how long that run is from turn 3 to turn 4. Just now heading down the back straight to the start-finish line. Safety car, pace car into the pit lane. And now just wait for everyone to fly through the last chicane and waiting for the green flag. There we are, the race is underway. And looks like Canola takes the lead. Ooh, really close behind between Wilkes and Grant Riddall. Looks like they all survived. Let's see. Canola first, Riddall second, Wilkes third, Tim fourth, Nilsson up the inside of Brian Yannick in fifth. For fifth and sixth. Looks like Anders just about takes that position. And looks like everyone survives the opening 3 turns. Let's look at this. Canola still in lead, but Grant Riddall really keeping him honest behind. Oh, it looks like Pagiola has got him past Yannick as well. Yannick with a fairly slow start here. And Wattman bringing up the back of the grid with his Penske. And look at this, right up behind is Riddall on Canola. Looks like everyone has more or less found their spot in the snake for the time being. So across the line for the first time, Canola first, Riddall second, Wilkes third. Then we have Tim fourth, Nilsson fifth, Pagiola sixth with the Yannick in seventh. You have Bors in eighth, followed by Ray Riddall in ninth. And rounding out the top 10 is David Wattman with Little Al behind, Saber, Bouchard, Marazzi, Miller, Jason White, Simone Gilardini, Chacon and Wattman rounding out the field. looks like right now. Top of the field are looking quite happy to remain where they are. Here comes Brian Yannick though, looking up the inside of Padjola. Ooh, Padjola turns in very aggressively. Chops Yannick off and stays ahead. Was a bit late maybe on the turn in, but he had the right to be there, I'd say. Gilardini with Chacon right behind. I believe Gilardini just passed Chacon there. Marazzi understeers really wide, very close to the wall. And I believe Jason White may have had a bit of a lose as well in behind. Let's see here, Yannick with another look up the inside of Padjola. Padjola breaks late, tries to stay ahead. Yannick with a nose up the inside. Let's see who has the better power down the straight. Both of them, I'm sure, using Cosses. There goes Yannick up the inside, but oh, look at that. Padjola really late on the brakes. And you have Bors just keeping a watching brief, going, yeah, please go ahead, guys. You can fight it out. I'll pick up any opportunity I get. And here comes Yannick up the inside. He should have the move done now. There we are, yes. Oh, and Padjola drifts deep in the turn. Oh, there's contact, I believe, between him and Bors. And Bors manages to hold on to the car. Let's jump on board with you here. Look up ahead as Yannick is now trying to pull away, and Bors really understeering into turn 10 on the bumps and in the dirty air, and Padjola just pulls a little bit of a gap. Chacon has repassed Gilardini as well in behind. Oh dear, both of them hitting the outside of the track, and Bors running wide on the exit as well. And that's what we mean with the berms on the edges of the track, just to discourage a little bit the massive cuts that can sometimes be seen in some races. Nilsson and Tim in a fight, I think. Let's check that out. Nilsson ahead of Tim. I believe Jon just got past him for a moment before. Look at that, Nilsson wide, but that Ilmo power plant pulling him very nicely down the straight still. Well, Richard Wilkes has gotten by Grant Vidal as well, so Richard Wilkes with some pace early on in this race. Canola with the fastest lap of 9.153. Here comes Bors and Padjola. Bors is going to pass Padjola then. Here comes Wattman. I noticed it was close earlier between Sabre and Little Al, but it's spaced out again. There goes Burke. Here comes Filippo Marazzi. Followed now by Dave Miller. So Miller has gotten past Jason White in the last couple of laps. And there goes Chacon. And now ahead of Gilardini, and way down the straight here comes Simon Wattman. And I believe Ray just made a move on Padjola. He tried, but Padjola held on. So I bought my favorite camera on these cars. Ray really deep. Turn 7. A bit wide as well on the exit of 10. Look at that, and towards the end of that straight, Ray really pulled a lot. Ooh, Padjola deep. Just might give Ray an opportunity at turn 3. Late on the brakes, but not close enough. does look like Pagiola is struggling a little bit with a car that isn't quite balanced to his liking. Looks to be moving around quite a lot on him. From understeer to oversteer to understeer and then oversteer again. And David Ruttman as well now with Sabre in behind, so Little Al has dropped behind Sabre, and look at that, Sabre with a great run through 10. That should be an opportunity to pass at the end of this back straight into turns 11 and 12. Not quite close enough. Gives it a good long look, but decides against diving fully up the inside there. Probably the discretion a better part of valor right there. Because that section can turn very ugly very quickly. Brian Yannick has passed John Tim as well as Ray now up the inside of Pagiola. Looks like he has the position done this time around. Yes, he does. A little bit further ahead. John Tim indeed now behind Brian Yannick. Oh, but Yannick a bit sideways there, but holds on to the car. Is able to continue. That is one of the fortunate things with this particular Burke Lakefront track. There is quite a bit of room on the outside of these turns for the most part. Meaning that if you go deep or if you lose the car a little bit, you can just decide to try and let it run straight and wide, and you can then rejoin with no damage done to the car. Here we have Filippo Marazzi. I noticed Dave Miller was right up behind his gearbox a moment ago, but Miller got off the boost, I reckon, almost running into the back of Marazzi in the turn 7-8 section. One look at that, Dave Miller really late on the brakes, got a little bit loose, locked up the rear tires for a moment, but able to hold on to the car and continue on his chase of Marazzi. Does look like the one in biggest trouble at the moment is Bruno Pagiola and John Tim, because John Tim was fighting with Nilsson earlier and now he is down in 6th, quite a bit behind, and 4 seconds the gap between Canola in the lead and Wilkes in 2nd. So Canola putting on a really good drive early on in this stint. Say with there being 3 full tanks of fuel to use, as long as you can make the engine last, running richer, which also means running it hotter, I would say you need to make about that be 28 laps or so, I believe, if you want to make it in 2 stops. Actually, but 28 to be on the safe side in the early stints, and then you can possibly pull a bit more out of the car later on. Canola now opening up a 5-second gap. See, he seems very, very happy with his Lola chassis and the Cosa powering it. Driver of the race so far has to be Anders Nilsson, really. That chassis is not that nice to drive. That PC16 was a handful for the drivers, hence why it was scrapped quite early on, as Canola with a faster lap That's why he was pulling away from Wilkes. 108.857, that is a blistering lap early on in this race. Look at this, in behind Anders here is Ryan Yannick. Jump on board the Penske and look over its rear wing as Yannick closes in. Yannick running a March 87C with a Cosworth engine. Overall a much better suited chassis for this track. Look at that, all that extra speed. Ooh, as Anders missed a gear, I believe there. That's what you want to have happen. You'll see, to me it looks like Anders is struggling with understeer in the car. Meanwhile, Brian is more on the oversteery side. I believe, generally speaking, most drivers would prefer to be a bit on the oversteery side. I know Anders definitely does, and here goes Yannick up the inside. Can he make the move stick? Yes, he can. Is he able to hold the track as well through the chicane? Yes, he does. So Nilsson back to 5th, Brian Yannick up to 4th. And Brian, with the race last time out, no points scored, will be hoping for a really good finish here tonight. Preferably ahead of both Jonatan and Grant Medall to try and close in towards the championship lead. So that being said, having scored, if I remember correctly, just over half the amount that Grant Medall has so far this year, it is a very tall ask to get those points back. But having seen how championships have panned out in the past, anything is possible. This as well, Grant Medall has closed back up a little bit on Richard Wilkes here. See Jonatan in a bit of a no man's land in 6th, as is Joa Boos in 7th. He is ahead of Ray Riddall, who is himself ahead of Pajola. Pajola still looks like the car, at least from that little bit, looks a bit more settled now compared to what it was a few laps ago. That definitely looks a bit more settled. David Wattman still rounding out the top 10, still with David Saber in behind him. And then Little Al quite a ways down the road in a bit of a no man's land, 8 seconds ahead to the car ahead and 7 seconds to the car behind. The car behind being Jos Begard, running the March 86 chassis with the Ilmo power plant. Looks to be struggling a little bit with understeer in this part of the stint. Jason White currently running 14th, so he has repassed David Miller and has also gotten past Filippo Marazzi. So Jason has found some pace, or maybe something happened between Marazzi and Miller because they were running together earlier. I'm not sure if maybe they had a coming together of some kind. I do apologize, I seem to have a bit of an issue with the hardware here. Keep your eyes. Oh, Bruno Pajola out! And Simon Wattman out, and David Wattman and Bruno Pajola. Whatever happened here? Oh, I'm worried that it may have been a coming together between the two in some way. Let's see, Pajola a little bit wide, got loose. Turned into the first turn, deep, wide, into the tires, and unfortunately David Wattman with nowhere to go, and David Saber looked like a rather lucky escape there. He was right in behind those two. As that all went down, that was very close indeed for David Saber, but he looks to have survived. I indeed have a hardware issue. I will leave you for just a moment, because I need to replug a piece of equipment here. I will hand you over to Marazzi and David Miller for a moment as they keep on battling for 13th and 14th now. There we are back in business. Yes, that is Jason White looking to be going a little bit slowly on the exit of that turn, but picks up the speed down the straight as here comes the faster cars as well. Richard Wilkes now sneaking past Dave Miller into the final chicane. And in behind as well is Grant Woodall, so both of them running into this battle. And looks like Grant is in a bit of a better position here, as Wilkes has a bit of a haulage to get past the guys, but looks like everyone is able to hold status quo more or less here. Oh, and Marazzi hits the inside of the turn very heavily indeed. Just about avoided tires, I'm sure, and was scuffed wide but survived. There goes Dave Miller back past. That would have been a very close call, and one where you might just think about, oh, and that almost looked like a bit of a rear contact as Jason White goes wide as well up ahead. And now Jason White drops behind David Miller as well. Hell has broken loose between these guys, and there goes Brian Yannick up the inside as well, trying to lap. And dearie me, all hands on deck for these drivers, as all things are happening right away. As Canola with another fastest lap, an 8.334. That is a very, very quick lap, and the battle truly is on. As now Anders Nilsson is going to be looking to pass these guys as well. And it is very difficult to lap people when they are battling between themselves, because you can't quite be sure if they've seen you or not. As Jason White pulls right to the inside of the track, trying to let Anders Nilsson past. And looks like Anders, I believe, pulled ahead there. He did indeed. But White and Marazzi really losing Dave in that process. Ooh, and Bouchard really deep in the final chicane, just about survives that one. As Little Al up into 10th, Saber 9th, Ray Riddall lapping Gilardini, currently sitting in 8th. He has Joa Boss not too far ahead in 7th. And then a bit of a gap to John Tim, who's now himself having to lap Marazzi and White and Miller. Nilsson still 5th, Yannick still in 4th. And then we have Grant and Richard fighting for 2nd and 3rd. Those being Wilkes and Riddall. Ooh, and Wilkes really loose coming through turn 4 and No, 5 and 6. 7, 8 is better. Down to turn 9. And into turn 10 with a bumpy entry. Ooh, and Grant really wide on the exit. Just about hold that car to stay away from that concrete wall on the outside. And survives to try and catch up to Richard once again. And seeing as there is just a bit of a lull in the action here, out on track, some gaps opening up. The only gap really close at the moment, by the looks of things, would be between Wilkes and Riddle, though Wilkes is currently pulling out just a bit of a gap here. Let's have a look at the trivia question for you for this night's race. You have something to ponder for the next 60 laps. The question being, thank you to Jason White for providing graphics once again, and also this question: who won the first kart IndyCar race held at Burke Lakefront Airport? The first race being in 1982. Was it A, Bobby Rahal, B, Danny Sullivan, or was it C, Mario Andretti? The answer to the question will be given later on in the broadcast. And back to the track. The gap is still substantial enough between second and third, so let's look further back. So there were some sections where there were quite close battles. Gilardini has gotten past Filippo Marazzi. And Brun Chacon has got him by Marazzi as well, as Marazzi is out. What happened to Marazzi then? See if we can catch it, because he was having a good race up until just a few moments ago. Ooh, looks like a big crash for him. Oh dear, as we've seen others before, took a bit too much on the inside of turn 11, which spat the car just a little bit sideways and a bit too wide onto the apex of turn 12, as someone, that was Chacon, running wide as well, as he came across the car parts of Marazzi. So Chacon now last car running in 15th, unfortunately. Gilardini out of the way of the faster cars in 14th. Jason White 13th. Dave Miller 12th. Jules Bugard currently 11th, with Little Al still in 10th. Saber still 9th. Riddle Ray still 8th. Johan Ball still 7th. John Tim still in 6th, with Anders Nilsson cutting it. Oh, cutting is really fine. Wow! That was really close to the outside wall in 5th. Just about. That chassis really rearing its ugly head late on in the stint when tires are worn. Janik still in 4th, and looks like he is slowly and steadily closing in on Grant Riddle now. Grant having put on a bit of a push to try and catch Richard Wilkes earlier, now dropping back 2.6 behind the Portuguese driver, who himself is about 6.5 seconds in the rears of Thiago Canola. Let's jump on board with Richard Wilkes for a lap. That Brabham Honda revs to about 12,000 RPM, and it's, by the sounds of things, Wilkes is using every single one of those revs at the moment, trying to pull away from Grant with all. And just slightly closing in on Canola right now as well. Canola with a lapped car just behind him. That was Little Al, I think. So maybe just losing a bit of time in trying to get by safely was Canola this time by. We are closing in on the first set of pit stops as well. So it will be interesting to see what happens after the pit stops, and if anyone is brave enough to try some kind of strategy thing, like those we've seen on the ovals, where people will change 2 tires, then 4 tires, then 2 tires, then 4 tires, only outside tires. With this track being mainly counterclockwise, with quite a few high mid-speed left-handers, has to be said, but generally speaking, you might be able to get away with some kind of strategy like that still, even on this particular racetrack. Bit of unfortunate timing for Grant here. That Ilmo powered Patrick Racing entry very quick down the straight. So Little Al wasn't quite interested in letting him by down the straight, because that loses Little Al a lot of time and space. So that was bit of a bad timing, but it didn't look like Grant got held up too badly by it anyway. As you guys can see as well, this particular lap has been covered almost entirely by 2 separate cameras, really giving you an idea of how flat this airport track is, and how understandably many fans enjoyed this track, because you could be more or less just in the grandstand and see pretty much the whole circuit. So we can see there looked like Grant may just have a slight drop in internet there, but hopefully no issues to come further from that. Because Grant is having a really good race so far here. Though looks like Canola into the pits, as is Nilsson. Here goes Canola out to the pit lane. And let's just jump on board and see how tight this pit exit is. Like, look at that, barely wide enough for 2 cars. As Nilsson into the pits as well. Let's see where he comes out, looking like a longer stop. There he goes. Happy time for him, just straight out. Avoid walls on both sides and re-enter the track in 6th. And try to negotiate this opening lap on these cold tires. You have balls into the pits as well, as has been Ray. So let's see what the leaders decide to do. Ooh, as Grant really close to the barriers there. But Wilkes into the pits this time by. Interesting aspect to this race. Let's see what happens elsewise. There goes Little Al, Brun Chacon letting him by. Let's see, where is Canola? Canola coming in the background, I think. Yep, that is Canola, and look at this, Wilkes out ahead. Wilkes out ahead of Canola. Wilkes on cold tires though. Can he... Ooh, locked up. Can he get it stopped? Yes, he can. Can he get the power down? Yes, he can. A little bit squirming. Here goes Canola on warmer tires. Maybe he can do something about Richard Wilkes. Let's see if the overcut works. Grant as well, running very long indeed. As is Yannick. Looks like Grant is into the pits now, by the looks of things. Look at this, looks like Wilkes has held on. Weathered the cold tire storm and will be looking to stay ahead now of Canola. In the meantime, both Grant and Yannick continues actually. Let's see what Grant can do. Grant was just behind Wilkes earlier. Here goes Grant out of the pits. Here comes Wilkes. Wilkes is closer than what Canola was. But that overcut working wonders for Grant. Although he is running very deep, trying to get the power down. Squirms out of it. Here goes Wilkes. And here comes Canola. So the overcut very strong on this racetrack by the looks of things. Further back as well, Saber down to 11th, Bouchard up to 10th. I'm not sure Bouchard has pitted yet. Follow this for a little bit because this ought to be the fight for the lead after the pit stops, because Yannick is into the pits as well, but he was further behind. I can't see him overcutting a lot of them, at least not on this stint, maybe the next. Yannick there, still in the pits, as the trio in the lead sneaks past. Here goes Bouchard out of the pits. He had indeed not stopped yet. And Little Al comes out as well, just behind Bouchard. So Little Al and Bouchard swaps positions. Yannick out. He looks like he's just going to stay ahead of Anders. No, cold tires. Understeering wide. Nilsson up the inside. And that is very much warmer tires for you. So the overcut not quite working for Yannick. But it definitely has worked for both Wilkes and Riddle. But now Wilkes will be wanting to get by Grant, because we saw earlier Wilkes was faster than Grant over the full stint. Because he also now has Canola not too far behind. And this might turn into a three-way duel in the second stint to see who gets the supremacy and the lead before the final stop of this race. The one in the box seats in terms of fuel at the moment should be Grant and Brian Yannick, to be fair. And Gelatini has gotten past both Miller and White during the pit stops as well, I notice in behind. Still behind Burke, so because I don't think the position will change very soon, as Yannick looked like he had a bit of a lackluster turn there. Ball's now out of the pits in 7th, and there's Ray, and here is Saber running in behind. That is Dave Miller, a lap behind him, well, soon to be a lap behind. Burke 3 seconds ahead of Little Al at the moment, and Miller has gotten back past Gilardini and Jason White, so those two must have had a bit of a moment together. Here is Dave, and that was a car lapping him indeed. There's Jason White and Gilardini coming out to the pits now. So Gilardini ran really late in this stint. As Burke is trying to let his teammate by. Not the best situation that has happened in a race ever, but they worked it out. Back out front, looking back over the rear wing of the Rainer Racing entry, looking back to the Gallus number 15 and the Dick Simon number 23. Trying hard, Grant a bit deep at turn 1. So somewhat compromised his turn 2, and he's wide here at turn 3. He gets the power down very nicely. Oh, and Grant deep again, missing his turning point. Richard just maybe Wilkes with a run. Bit loose on the power on, definitely close enough to, if he can stay this close, getting onto the back straight, he should have an opportunity. This is obviously Cosworth versus Brabham Honda versus a Cosa in behind. Ooh, Grant deep again, wide on the exit. Here comes Richard Wilkes with a great run, looking up the inside. Dave Miller up ahead here in the Acerclinth Racing 48. Wilkes just about getting the car turned in, holds up to both of them. Here comes Canola with a bit of a run. Oh, and he actually looks up the inside. Grant letting him by almost by looks, I think it's there. Jeremy, so now the battle on for the lead, I'd imagine, between Wilkes and Canola. What an exchange of positions right there. Wow. So Grant is struggling a little bit early on in the stint. Possibly the chassis not quite set up for a full tank, or maybe he just doesn't feel comfortable. Maybe also a question of how the suspension rides the bumps when there's a lot more weight in the car. Because Grant looked quite set and quite quick later on in the stint, but right here early on, both at the start of the race and here now, he loses out. And look at that, Wilkes trying to pull away from Canola. He knows how quick Canola was in the first stint. Looks like preliminarily it is a 3-horse race for the win in this race. In behind it is Nilsson 4th, Now with Yannick in 5th. Yannick again, similarly to what Grant Woodall was experiencing. The overcut didn't quite work for him, and he lost a bit of time early on in the stint on cold tires, trying to get them heated. And as well right now, just losing out a little bit to Nilsson. Nilsson himself showed that he had quite a bit of pace to burn early on in the race, but then dropped pace. So definitely different philosophies in setting the car up. For the car being heavy or for the car being light. John Tim likewise looks like he's a bit quicker early on in the stint. Then he dropped back later on in the first stint, and it looks like he is just a little bit quicker at the moment than what Brian Yannick is. We are both consistent, 7th. Keeping the car on the island and between the grass and the wall. Woodall likewise in the Dick Simon entry, 8th. David Saber and the Vince Granatelli car running 9th. Quite a ways behind Ray up ahead, 12 seconds, and 34 seconds ahead of Jos Bouchard in 10th, who now has a nearly 8-second gap to Little Al in 11th, the Patrick Racing entry. I know Little Al mentioned that he has been home ahead of the finals season. Obviously last few weeks of school for him, meaning quite a bit of work and getting ready, so probably not as much time to get the car to his liking for this particular race. Dave Miller running 12th at the moment in the RCR Racing, number 48. Now 45 seconds behind Little Al, but also has a 34-second gap to Jason White, who himself is fighting hard with Gilardini right behind him. So I'm on board with the Dan Hanna Auto Wash wing on board the Newman Haas Racing entry. Looking back, listening to this Ilmore power plant as the Revan Honda of the Gallus Racing entry, number 11 behind. Yes, look at that thing pull off the hairpin then. Like as long as Jason White can drive it clean and keep it pointing in the right direction, he is able to stay ahead of Simone here. This Wilkes pulled out a bit of a gap, but Canola has closed it back in. Just over a second now between first and second place in this race, and a further 3.5 seconds back to Grant Woodall, who will be hoping to stay within striking distance if something happens between these two, or for the overcut at the end of this second stint. Yannick has closed in on Nilsson as well in the battle for 4th and 5th. Does look like Wilkes and Canola have different sections of this track where they are strong. Looks like Canola is really strong off turn 10 through to about here, the exit of turn 3, but then through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and up to 10 Wilkes is just a little bit quicker. That being said, right now Canola really closing in towards the rear wing of Wilkes's Gallus Racing entry. Ooh, and look at that, what difference in drive off the turn! Canola really setting the car up to where he could be on the power very early coming off that turn. Meanwhile Wilkes did not. And also lap traffic up ahead, I believe that's Bruno Chacon in the leader card races entry. Trying to stay wide and let both guys past, he does, nicely done Bruno. Trying to intervene as little as possible in this lead battle. Which can be a very difficult thing, even though the track is very wide. If you are caught ahead of turn 11 and up to turn, well, exit of turn 2 really, it is not easy to let any other drivers past. We are halfway done with this race. 41 laps in the books. So it looks like we'll be on for about an hour and a half worth of racing here tonight. Well, look at that, Canola closing right in on Wilkes again, going into 11 and 12. Across the finish line, finishing another lap, 1 and 2 next, into turn 3. Wilkes a little bit wide, but getting the power down very nice and early, pulls the gap. A lot of lap traffic up ahead. That's Gilardini and White. They are still fighting for 13th and 14th. And now lap traffic coming up to try and get past them as well. See Gilardini able to let Wilkes past, but has to turn in at some point. Canola is just slightly held up, but Gilardini dives out of the way, letting Canola past. White running wide, letting Wilkes take the inside line. So all in all, just a little bit of time gained for Canola on Wilkes. Status quo between Cialdini and Jason White. Sounds like there's another car about to be lapped. That is Ray Riddall and the other Dick Simon entry. See if there's any in-team skullduggery about to happen here, because Ray Riddall is the teammate of Canola in this race, both of them driving Dick Simon cars. I don't think that is the case that anything will happen, but it has been known in history for some teams to pull off some sneaky stuff over the years. Oh no! Ray Riddall in the wall, ahead of the leaders. Oh dear me, that car looks very wounded indeed. That's a spin, that's a big off. That's, I'm sorry to say, probably Ray Riddall out of this race. He understeered in turn 10, and yep, he has retired on the spot. We can see here, jumping on board, just a bit early on the turn-in, too much speed. Carried him to the outside wall, and then no wing and bent rear suspension just meant the car began fishtailing on him, and unfortunately finally he lost the car heavy off, and that is unfortunately race over for the Brit. So that means Jules Bouchard will climb to 9th, Little Al will climb to 10th, Dave Miller will now then be on for 2 points instead of just 1. And at the moment at least, Jason White will be in the last points paying position, though he has still Simone Gilardini for very close company in the battle for now 12th and 13th, as they need to finish one more lap to get to that point. Yannick now right up behind Anders Nilsson as well. So again, the seesaw of the stint. We are about halfway through the stint, and we can see Yannick has closed in considerably on Nilsson over the last few laps. Nilsson doing an incredible job in that PC16 chassis, but clearly late in the stint, not quite up to what he would prefer. Taking a very tight line into turn 3. Yannick likewise to the lap. I believe that may have been David Saber. It was indeed. As now Jason White climbs to 12th. Gilardini in 13th, and in a couple of laps time as well, Bruno Chacon will be up to 14th. Oh, and Yannick wide. Can he get the car slowed for turn 10? Yes, he can. Oh, Nilsson really wide. Just about keeping the car away from the wall. Anders struggling with understeer at this point in the stint, just like he did in the previous one. Obviously both of these are in the top 10, drivers are in the top 10 in the championship as well, so they will be wanting to try and get as good a finish as they can, both of them, without picking up damage or retiring, despite battling with one another, so this is going to be tight. And look at that, Yannick through 7, 8, 9 and 10 really is a lot faster than what Anders Nilsson can muster. Also the battle between Gilardini and White again with lap traffic behind them. And Anders diving up the inside of Gilardini. Gilardini leaves the room needed. Very nicely done. Yannick trying to get up the inside as well. Past Gilardini at least into turn 5 and 6, but has to wait until the exit of 6 to lap Jason White again. Dropping just a bit of time to Nilsson in the process. Meantime, up at front, Burke ahead of the leaders, both of them really close together again. Ooh, and Wilkes wide on the exit. This is Canola's opportunity. Can he make anything of it? He has to run. Wilkes defends the inside. And Canola keep carrying a lot of speed around outside. Runs deep. Oh no, both of them together. No, 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 no! Dear me, Canola contact with Wilkes into the inside tires. Somehow he only lost the front wing by the looks of things, but that is very unfortunate for Canola. That will be a pit stop and some lengthy repairs to try and get the car back together for him. Yikes, that was unfortunate. I wonder what that, if that was, see, I'm on board with where Wilkes would have been seated. He knows, yeah, you can see Canola there. I wonder if he thought Canola would have run too wide and onto the grass because he carried so much speed into the turn. That's why he took his racing line, because at least from the view I can get from that, Canola was unsighted. Canola unfortunately now into the pits for lengthy repairs. That means for now Nilsson up to 3rd with Yannick up to 4th. And unfortunately the battle for the lead of the race very much divided, with now 8 seconds between Wilkes and Grant Vidal. So now 6 seconds to gap, so Grant late on in the stint has closed in a little bit on Wilkes. I wonder if Wilkes is carrying any kind of damage to the car from that contact. Now 5 seconds, so clearly Grant quicker than Wilkes either way. Nilsson still in 3rd, but still with Yannick for very close company in behind. John Tim up to 5th. Oh, that car looks a bit crabby. I wonder if he just made a little bit of contact with the wall. Oh yeah, Yeah, that car looks... Just based on how his wheel is moving, I reckon he has just a tad bit of damage to that car that he is trying to nurse home. You have Balls in behind now, 6th, with the demise of Canola from the top of the field. Unfortunately, Gilardini has retired. Let's see what we have. We have Canola 7th at the moment. Saber 8th, Burke 9th, Little Allen 10th, Dave Miller 11th, Jason White 12th. Now with far cleaner road with Chacon 13th and Simone Gilardini in 14th. I'm just going to have a very quick look, see if we can catch what happened to Simone in earlier on here. Looks like it's unfortunately going to be too far back for us to catch on the broadcast here, but presumably an off similar to some of those we've seen so far in this race. Ooh, and Juha clipping the inside of both turn 1 and 2, cutting it very fine. Able to hold the car together though. And let's follow this battle between Yannick and Nilsson, still on now for 3rd and 4th, as we're nearing the final set of pit stops. Should be just 2 or 3 laps away for the bulk of the pit stops to come. As I say that, Nilsson into the pits for his final stop. 26 laps left to do as he enters the pit lane. See what Yannick can do with the overcut he is getting right now. As Nilsson comes out of the pits, Jan Tim into the pits as well. So Nilsson ought to rejoin in 4th. If only just because here comes Juha Boss. So with the cold tires, a lot of understeer. I reckon Juha will get by, he does. The warmer tires really making a difference in the opening, let's say about 3/4 of a lap. Meanwhile, the leading duo still continues on their way. Wilkes struggling quite a bit with getting the power down, it seems. As Saber now being lapped for a 2nd time by Grant Midall. I reckon Saber may have pitted last time around. Yannick continues for another lap. Jon Tim with what looks like a lot of understeer on his cold tires, newly shod car. Canola with his pit stop off kilter. Don't know if he can make the fuel last, even if he runs very frugal. We'll have to wait and see. See. Wilkes continues, as does Grant. Let's see what Yannick decides to do. So the gap for the lead now is roughly 4 seconds. Looks like Yannick is looking to continue for another lap. He does. Both Grant and Wilkes looks to be running the car as deep as they can on fuel, shortening the pit stop as much as they can. We did see last stint that Grant was better on fuel than what Wilkes was. Looks like Wilkes is heading for the pit lane. He does, into the pits he goes. Grant continues. Grant onto the grass on the inside there, but he takes up the lead and will be trying for another overcut. And let's see what Yannick decides to do. Looks like he is taking the line to continue for another lap. And look at that, he is opening up the gap to Nilsson. Nilsson on a full tank of fuel and new tires that are, might not quite be up to snuff yet. Yannick trying to open up the gap as best he can. He may have been better off pitting that time though, because he got held up by Canola. And here comes Wilkes out to pit lane as well on cold tires. Won't be wanting to let Yannick by if he can help it. I don't think he can do much on the cold tires. He can't indeed, and here comes Canola as well, trying to unlap himself. Canola leaving a lot of sporting room there. There goes Canola up the inside, just waiting for the opportunity with warmer tires. See, Grant continues for another lap. And what will Yannick do now that he is actually losing a little time to Nilsson by the looks of things? He decides to continue. See, Grant 34 seconds now ahead of Wilkes. I reckon we all could probably pit this time by and remain ahead of Wilkes if he decides to do so. See further back, Bo's currently in 5th, but he has to pit, I reckon. John Tim, I think, have pitted. I'm not sure Ewa has. He may actually have pitted. Canola in 7th, Saber 8th, Burke 9th, Little Al 10th, Dave Miller 11th, Jason White still 12th, and Bruno Chacon still running in 13th. Wilkes now back past Canola, I think, on the lapping. And he is indeed. And Grant into the pits. Let's see where Grant ends up when all is said and done. He is already exiting. And look at that, Wilkes all the way back at turn 11 and 12. Grant out ahead of Wilkes by quite the margin. Wilkes really losing out on the overcut this time by. 10 seconds behind Grant. That being said, Yannick wants to keep his speed up. Now he has a newly shod Grant with all ahead on colder tires. I wonder what Grant will try to do. He is looking up the inside at 9, slips past. And looks like Yannick might be heading for the pit lane. Yes, he does. Let's see how he does compared to Nilsson in behind, his nearest competitor in this race. And a bit close on the pit exit then. That was Burke and Canola. Here goes Yannick out the pits. And there comes Anders Nilsson. It'll be close. Because Nilsson has warm tires. Yannick still needs to get his up to temperature. It'll be a difficult proposition to stay ahead, I reckon. One second now the gap. We've seen how much faster the warmer tires are. Here comes Nilsson, a lot of overspeed. Ooh, up the inside. Looks like he survived that move, and Nilsson back up to third in the PC16 Penske. And he'll be trying to open up the gap now to Brian to try and have whatever advantage he can have in this battle for third and fourth. And in behind as well, Juha Bors and Jonatan close to one another. Ooh, Juha loose on the entry into 7. Held on to the car though. But now Tim right up behind him. Going loose again on turn in. Here comes Jonatan with a bit of a look up the inside. Not making that move happen though. Look at that, Jonatan looking very aggressive. And we did notice earlier he was carrying just a little bit of damage. So he is doing a very good job in keeping the car in the race. Oh, Juha very deep at turn 3. But he gets the power down better, I reckon, and stays ahead. As little Al has retired. Whatever happened here, coming into the pits? Stops in his box and retires. Huh. Wonder what happened then, but Miller then will be up to 10th in a little bit's time. Hey, there he goes up to 10th. Jason White in about a lap and a half will be up to 11th. And Chacon in about 2.5 laps times will be up to 12th and getting 1 point in this race. Very unfortunate for little Al. I reckon it might be fatigue kicking in for him. And look at this, Bors still in being followed closely by Jonatan. Likewise, Yannick wide, trying to get as much speed as he can out of his curb racing entry in his hunt for the Pennzoil sponsored Penske PC16 in the hands of Nilsson. And meanwhile, 9 seconds the gap between Grant Woodall and Richard Wilkes in the battle for the lead and potential win in this race. So for right now, let's jump on board for a lap with Jonatan as he chases Juha Bors for 5th. Jonatan definitely looks like he is carrying some damage in that car. Car looks very ill handling for him. In the meantime, Yannick now right up behind Nilsson as well in the battle for 3rd. So at the end of this lap, 15 laps to go for these two. And these will be some very tiresome last 15 laps, I reckon, for Nilsson and Yannick both, as they will battle hard to try and get that third place. Looks like Grant for now is just a tad bit quicker than what Wilkes is. Now about 10 seconds to gap between the two. Meantime, your boss must have made a mistake. He is now behind John Tim. Looks like it happened. Oh, he had a... oh, dearie me. So... oh wow, look at that move by John Tim. So really pushing hard through 1 and 2, dives up the inside, brakes late, makes it up the inside, fully passed. You are trying to get the power down as early as you could, unfortunately spins the car. And hence now 6 seconds behind John Tim. So John Tim up to 5th, he finished 4th last time out. And with carrying the damage, he looks to... oh, Richard Wilkes is out! Whatever happened here? Where he's standing, that looks like an engine failure. See, riding on board. Yep, that's an engine failure for us. That's a turbo going, white smoke. Unfortunately, that engine just didn't quite want to make the full race. That is highly unfortunate. Wilkes was putting on a great race, but unfortunately, retirement is the reward, and at best, 1 point. I believe for 12th position. That means then you have Bors back up to 5th place and actually closing in just a little bit on John Tim ahead at this point in time. Meanwhile, Grant now can pull right back on the boost knob or fuel mixture and just cruise. 31 seconds the lead he has, 30 seconds let's say, to the duo behind Nilsson and Yannick. So this is now a battle for second in this race, and possibly, if anything were to happen to Grant, even a win. And I don't think anyone would have dared to say that the PC16 would be battling even for a podium, but even more so, a possible, if anything happens, win in this race. That car, especially the chassis, not kind to the driver, but that Ilmore Chevrolet engine definitely helping along the straights of this track. That means Sabre up to 6th as well, so a good solid haul of points for Sabre if he were to finish in 6th right there. Ooh, a bit loose on the exit there. Maybe gives Yannick just a bit of an opportunity. It looked like he had a better exit, and he is close. He is looking up the inside. Wow! That's a late braking maneuver. Gets ahead of Nilsson. Can Nilsson counterattack? looks like the answer for now. Oh, Yannick wide though at the exit of 3. It looks like the answer for right now is no. Let's watch that move on board with Anders Nilsson. Looking from the T-cam to our right will appear Brian Yannick's front wing. There we can see it just about, and Anders definitely checking up. Very little room left. That is definitely not a place to go side by side. And now the dirty air will be wreaking havoc with the balance of Nilsson's car. Definitely doesn't look like he has given up just yet. He ain't letting Yannick go. Oh no, Nilsson wide into the wall. That was a flat strike though, it looked like a pancake, so hopefully no major damage done. But that probably means he won't be able to try and catch up to Brian, and that will be third place will be the lookout for him, as Jonatan now 8 seconds ahead of Juha Bos. So Juha losing out to Jonatan steadily and safely, as Burke has retired as well. Let's see what... Oh dearie me, whatever happened there? Oh, deep at 7, wide at 8, just too much power on, ran wide, hard into the outside markers, and unfortunately that's a retirement for Burke. Which means then, if Miller can do a lap or two here, a couple of laps, he will be 8th in that March 85 chassis. Steady as she goes, the rewards will come. Jason White, if he keeps going, will be 9th, and Chacon, if he continues, will be 10th. Definitely looks like Grant has pulled back on the pace. Now 24 seconds ahead of Yannick, who himself has about a 1.5 seconds advantage on Nilsson in behind. So with the fact that we're looking at what looks like more or less a set field, let's have a look at the trivia question and answer to it a little bit early here. So the question that you all had the opportunity to ponder this evening was, who won the first kart IndyCar race held at Burke Lakefront Airport? Was it A, Bobby Rahal, B, Danny Sullivan, or was it C, Mario Andretti? Thank you for letting us know, Sneak. Sorry to hear it, but sounds like a good call. So the answer to the trivia question is A. Bobby Rahal, winning it at the first event in 1982. Congratulations to KO, who got the answer right. I'm sure KO it was more than just a guess. So Yannick now 6 seconds ahead of Nilsson. Looks like Nilsson has backed off and decided that, okay, I'll take third. And if anything better comes my way, I'll be happy with it. John Tim likewise now 13 seconds ahead of Juha Boos, who looks like he has decided to settle for 5th place. Also 6th for David Saber. I reckon he'll be very happy with that finish. Tiago Canola in 7th. Dave Miller will surely be happy with 8th, as long as that Cosworth engine in the back of his car holds up. Jason White currently 9th. I reckon he'll be happy with that on a road course. I know he was contemplating earlier that road courses are not for me. I wonder if I should sit 1 or 2 out towards the end of this championship, but good to see him partaking in this one and putting on a very good race. Brun Chacon as well, always nice and consistent, 8 seconds behind Jason White right now, so maybe a battle to be had for 9th and 10th in this race before it's over, as Chacon lets John Tim by. Oh, and Chacon just clipping the inside grass a little bit, but keeps the car pointing in the right direction. A bit of a lock up into turn 3, but keeps the car running and trying to close in on Jason White ahead. So John Tim in 4th, just ahead of Chacon on track like we saw earlier. Nilsson currently in 3rd, now 9 seconds behind Ryan Yannick, who has close to within 14 seconds of Grant Riddall, but only 3.5 laps to go for the Englishman before finishing this, what has turned out to be a grueling race, just like it would be for the real-life drivers. The bumpy nature leading to quite a bit of fatigue for the drivers, as they need to steel themselves over the bumps. And with how the suspension on these Indy cars work, and F1 cars to be fair, a lot of the force goes through the driver whenever there's a big bump or similar, or if they run over a high curving. Because the suspension travel on these cars can only do so much. And it feels like one of those races where Grant started just a bit cautiously, ran long on both stints, using strategy to his advantage, getting the overcut both times, and put himself in a position to have a go at the win in this race, and it's worked out to perfection for him, and he, to be fair, has put on a flawless drive, staying out of trouble, making the lappings when they can be done, and just doing a really good job. Likewise for Yannick, started a little bit further back at the start of this race, but kept the car out of trouble, ran long, in the stints, really long, almost losing out at the end of the first stint, but really gaining time at the end of the second one, and now driving very well to stay in second and trying what he can by looks of things to close in on Grant ahead. And likewise, Anders Nilsson started in fourth, looks to be finishing third as long as the car holds up. That is no mean feat in the PC16 Penske chassis. He has done a tremendous job with that car. Really, really impressive to watch. Just one of those really nice and steady and consistent drives from the Swede. That being said, starting the last lap in just a moment's time is Grant Riddle heading on to the last lap of this 80 lap race. Just going to have a quick look back behind, 3 seconds to gap. Let's see, where are they compared to Grant? Grant is behind them on track, so that could still be a battle between Jason and Bruno on the final lap of this race for them. But that being said, Grant Riddle coming through turn 8 into turn 9. Battle ahead, just ahead now as he goes through turn 10. Let's see, will he lap Bruno? Will he give Bruno the opportunity to go at Jason White? Looks like Grant is holding back, keeping a nice distance. Does not want to get taken out in the final turn, and here he goes. Winning the Budweiser Grand Prix of Cleveland is Grant Riddle in the Rainer Racing entry. Great drive from him. Likewise, here comes Brian Yannick to finish second in this race. Great drive from him. And Nilsson heading towards turn 11 and 12. Final turns of this race for him to finish in third. Very nicely done by Anders. Looks like Jon Tim will finish fourth. Juha Boos has just finished, I believe, in fifth. And there's Grant Riddle doing donuts very nicely for us. Let's see what is happening in the battle between White and Chacon. Right on! Chacon up the inside in 7, not able to make it happen. Down to turn 9. Chacon up the inside! Almost contact. Chacon passed. Can Nilsson... Can Jason White respond down this back straight? Looks like he can. Getting the overlap, running round outside. Can he get the brakes on? Can Chacon get the brakes on? Side by side, down into the final 2 turns. Almost contact, spin for Jason White. Chacon takes 9th. What a fantastic end to that race for those two. Chacon just about beating out Jason White. I reckon they'll be quite happy with that last lap battle. Chacon very happy, I reckon, with 9th. Jason White a bit disappointed maybe with 10th, being passed in the last gasp of the race, but still, I think he'll accept that. Jon Tim got 4th, Juha Boos got 5th, David Saber finishes 6th, Thiago Canola gets 7th for his troubles, Dave Miller, great consistent drive for 8th, and Bruno Chacon, like we saw, just beats Jason White for 9th. With Jason White 10th, Jules Bouchard will get 2 points for 11th, and Richard Wilkes will get 1 point for 12th. Our other retirees were Alberto Equino, with a splitting headache, unfortunately. Simone Gilardini, Ray Riddle, Filippo Marazzi, Bruno Pagiola, David Wattman, and our first retiree of this race was Simon Wattman. But what a race, great finish for Grant Riddle to get the win here tonight. So, what a race that was. Absolutely. Splendid stuff almost all the way through. Some good battles, some spills, a lot of thrills, especially at the end there. Really good fun to see that even towards the back end of the finishing field, the battle was on right up to the line. Doesn't look like any drivers are wanting to come and chat with us after this race, so to finish off, let's see what is coming up here at ISO over the next couple of weeks. First of all, on the 29th of June, we will have the Marlboro 500, round 9 of 15 of our 1987 kart PPG IndyCar World Series Championship. Green flag will be given at 1900 CEST, since it is a 500-mile race. Secondly, on July 6th, we will have the ADAC Bavaria Rennen Salzburgring. The 10th round out of 11 in our 1979 DRM Division 2 Championship. That is going to be a stunner of a race, I reckon, as will the Marlboro 500. The Salzburgring, a fast-flowing, high-speed affair, and these Bimmers and Capris and Escorts and 2002s, the 320s, will do splendid things at the Salzburgring. But with that, thank you everyone for tuning in and watching tonight's race. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did talking about it. But until next time on June 29th, have a great couple of weeks, be kind to one another, and take care of yourselves. Good night and have a great time.